Well, now comes the fun part. We have some questions that you've submitted, and we're going to go through some of these questions. We're not going to get to all of them. We'll probably spend the next 10 minutes or so in the Q&A, and then we'll also see if we have some questions that have been submitted already just today. But let's start with some of the ones that were submitted in advance, and some of them we've already answered through the discussion topics that we've gone through. Mark, this first one here, I think it looks like it's for you, and it says, and this is a little bit general, but it says any gotchas upgrading from Remedy 7.6.4.
Well, yeah, I would love to say no. There's going to be your gotchas, but let's take the overlay model out of the conversation, because that really knocks most of the gotchas out of the upgrade process. So once you're in the overlay model, you should see greatly reduced gotchas. Like I mentioned on that last one that I did over the weekend, we had a filter that failed to update. Why? We don't know. Fortunately, these are things that BMC is, I'm knocking on wood in my head here, they've done a lot better job of QC and QA on these items. So they were able to quickly resolve that. Are you always going to have quick results? Possibly not. I do see some chats on there saying that people are experiencing issues. They won't all go away. What I do think you will see is they'll go away faster. And so you'll be able to resolve these things. The data migration and your schema migration are still going to be concerns if you're doing a large-scale upgrade. You've got a whole new architecture with the mid-tier, so you're going to have some architecture changes. But these are more normal occurrences. Last gotcha I'll say is IE11 is a good example. People were experiencing issues when IE11 came out. The remedy for that has been to mid-tier and patch it, and now that works downward. So we've actually had people that put 8.1 in the mid-tier on an 8.0 system, and that supports Internet Explorer 11. And mind you, that is an Internet Explorer issue, not a BMC issue, but they were very quick to put out a patch to fix these gotchas.
Okay. Here's another question that's somewhat related, and it says upgrading to 8.1 from a pre-overlay version such as 7.5, which contains a moderate amount of customization, large amount of records, seems like a daunting task. What is the best approach to implementing 8.1? And then it says either build new environment and migrate or upgrade existing. So I guess that means kind of start over or try to upgrade. Any words of wisdom?
It's a hard question to answer globally. I think phased approaches can be more disruptive to the business. Big bang, you start in one place, you get it finished, and then you cut it over. Tends to be better for the customer and the user experience in the long run because there's less transition, minimal train and changes. There's many options to how you do this, but instead of answering a one-size-fits-all answer, what I do recommend is you look at where you're at today, you look at what the new version of Remedy offers you, and it may be a good time to say, we don't need that customization anymore because BMC's now put it into the application out of the box, or they did it better, or their way of doing it makes sense, and we can live without the customization. That reduces your cost of ownership and upgradability in the future. So these are things you may actually benefit from not bringing your customizations over. So these are a one-off. You need to look at it, put the bullet list together of the capabilities, and I think from there you can have a much better system. Again, how do you justify to your stakeholders, this is a better way. You're delivering a better product, better return on investment.
Okay. Roger, here's one for you, and it has to do with Remedy RKM, and you can explain what that is, but it says, can you describe some of the enhancements of Remedy RKM version 8.1?
Sure. Well, first off, back at, I think it was 7.6, Remedy Knowledge Management, RKM, was completely rewritten using Remedy forms and all the tools that are within Remedy, as opposed to it was a separate app that just plugged in. So the performance and the interoperability has improved quite a bit. But in 8.1, they have done a lot of things that people had been asking for. For example, you can now edit the HTML source that you've got in your knowledge article. There's now a spell check. You would think that would have been there forever, but it wasn't. You can now, do things like use special characters and strike throughs and, special symbols, things like that. And this is obviously for the people who are creating the articles, but they like that. You now have the ability to search for duplicates or duplicate topics within there. One really cool new feature is you can now take a knowledge article and create a broadcast from it. If it's something you want to advertise to the staff community out there, here's a broadcast on issues we see going on today, or a new knowledge article that's out there. You can do that right from within the original one. You can now have up to 25 attachments inside of a knowledge article, whereas before it was limited. I don't recall the exact number, but it was nowhere near the double digits that we're talking about now. So, it's better there from those types of things. Enhanced performance issues, article creation history, and now the ability to increase the number of, multiple companies, multiple categories, a lot more filter content. And, it used to be we'd only put in like keywords to help make an article come up. But now I can say the article pops if this op categorization is there, or this prod categorization is there, or if I've got an attachment that comes into play. So it has been improved quite a bit. I don't know that BMC did a lot of talking about that as much as they did, service request management and all of that. But take a look at it. Again, we can get you some info on what's new in RKM and put it on our website if you would like to see that.
Okay, thanks, Roger. I think that's one of those things that comes with Remedy that oftentimes people tend to think, well, I'll get to that, and then they never do. So, okay, here's another question, and I know that this has been covered a little bit, but Mark, it says here, what's the typical timeline to get a Remedy 8.1 system deployed, assuming a moderate amount of customization?
We've tested, and I guess with that we need to look at the level of customizations. First off the bat, are you using OLE, object linking and embedding? Are you using any type of technologies that were client-based? The client is no longer a supported tool. Remedy is now a web-based tool. So we have to look at the very few things, and one of the very rare times that Remedy was not fully backwards compatible on maybe 2, 3, I can think of 2 off the top of my head. They're minor, but that has to be addressed. So that's variable. Integrations. But you have to ask yourself, what are the level of customization? You still need them. Does 8.1 address them? And if the answer is yes, we still need them, then there's ways of doing it. Stand up a new one, bring the data over, an upgrade in place. So there's several ways. So short answer is I would take what you're used to and divide it by half. That would be a rule of thumb. It's going to take about half as long as it used to once you're in the new model for the upgrades. I'd love to be able, when we do the assessment, we could get into a little bit more details because we look at architecture, RAM, and your processors and all the technical bells and whistles that impact all these decisions. But
yeah, Mark, because, a lot of times when people finally elect to do that upgrade, they also want to upgrade their infrastructure, so you've got to account for time in that, right? Database compatibility issues, and we do that typically as part of it, but things like that take time. Are we going to, as you say, stand up the new system and do the data migration, where there's time for the data migration, and then the deltas during the time we were in dev? How many environments do you have? Do you have just production and dev, or production, dev, test? Failover, because each one of those has to be touched. So you can't give a standard answer, but with you individually, if we can engage in a one-on-one dialogue, we can start to narrow down and get an exact estimate for you out in your environment with what you say you want to do based on where you are now. Here's what the level of effort would be.
Okay.
Right, and an example of opportunity is Microsoft's retiring mapping. is this a good opportunity to start reworking your architecture for email integrations? You know, these are areas of improvement that are beyond remedy where we can really improve your systems.
Okay. We were trying to certainly keep this to around 45 minutes, but let me ask one, and this is, I think, one you've already kind of covered on. It says, what assurance do we have that this version is compatible with the most current version of Internet Explorer? We encounter significant issues with IE10 and IE11 compatibility with version 7604.
Well, I can answer that one definitively now. We have a custom 8.0 system. We've upgraded them. They're mid-tier to 8.1 latest patch, and it works with all versions of IE 8 and above. So BMC is making, you know, very strong commitment to keeping up with the browser wars that are out there, and they're doing a good job. So if you're on 8.0 or 8.1 system, upgrade your mid-tier, and you should be fine.
Okay. Well, let's move. Thank you. Let's move to some of the questions that have come in today. And there's one here that says, related, I think, somewhat to that. It says, well, although this is Remedy on Demand, but it says we are currently using Remedy on Demand 8.0 and thinking about moving to Remedy on Demand 8.1. Is there enough of an out-of-the-box difference to make it worth the upgrade? Well, I guess one of the answers would be the browser support. Is that right?
Browser support.
Yep. Sorry, go ahead, Mark.
That's okay. Browser support, SRM, they've made improvements in the SRM that the users have liked a lot, as Roger talked about. The indexing, the full-text search indexing has been enhanced. This is an area we're going to see going forward. There was a question earlier, should we? Well, full-text search is certainly going to be an area you want to look at with the future path of Remedy. They've done some considerable upgrades to that technology.
Yeah, go to our website and pull up that presentation webinar I did on what's new in 8.1, and then you can kind of do a comparison of what's there, and then from that I think you could make your more intelligent justification. You know, are those things like email approvals, you know, and some of the other enhancements that I list in that webinar, are they things that would take advantage of this? Now, as Mark has told you, going from 8 to 8.1 shouldn't be that much of an effort, and you know, normally when you're in an on-demand environment, you typically would have fewer customizations than somebody who is on-prem. So I would think that would shorten the amount of effort it would take to get you on the upgrade path as well.
Certainly.
Okay. Here's another question, and I know that this is a very general question, but is it as easy as you are saying? I mean, the upgrade 8.1 from 7604. You know, obviously it depends. You know, it depends question, right? Because you don't really know what you're getting into until you take a look at what you have, right? Mark, you've kind of addressed that before, I would suspect here.
Yeah, easy is relative. Are you using heavy integrations? A lot of, you know, AI, atrium integrations. You have a lot of complex mechanisms going on here. That's going to increase your complexity. Talking apples to apples, minor customizations, as much out of the box, your basic upgrades will be considerably easier. And every patch gets easier. So every time they move this overlay model and their upgrade system, they're getting easier. I know that Doug Mueller has mentioned the future path in some meetings, and you know, the guy's a genius. He sees the future, and I can tell you, I can't give you the specifics, but in probably a couple versions, it's going to be radically even easier.
Okay. All right. Well, that I think kind of brings us to the end of the webinar today.